chat.
Have you ever made a New Year's resolution? You know, new year, new me. And then by day 3, you're back on the couch scrolling on TikTok again. Amy.
Blair.
We have all set huge goals with the best intentions only to watch them fall apart. It's not often because we're lazy, but instead it's because we tried to make the wrong change at the wrong time in the wrong way. And the same thing happens when we try and change our relationship culture. So today we're going to be getting practical about turning broken resolutions into real lasting change and the kind that sticks as well. So with all of that, welcome to Honey, We Need to Chat, guys. The podcast all about communication in a relationship. We believe that when communication dies in a relationship, bad things happen.
Yes, and this is the second episode we're doing in our relationship reset mini-series. We spoke last week about really liking your partner. And today we're going to dive into how you actually start to implement these things that we talk about. Because when we're on the podcast, it's easy to talk about these things that sound great and these change to patterns and rhythms and culture within your relationship that sounds really good, but it's not as easy to know how to actually implement those things. And thankfully, this is an episode that's really helpful across the board. It does not have to be specific to your relationship. We are talking about it from a relationship perspective, but you can apply this to everything in terms of implementing goals and actually making lasting change in your life. So we're going to get super practical about that. Please stick around till the end for those practical tips.
Let's get practical.
Woo, woo.
Practical. Do you get that in your head when you say that?
Not at all. Because that's not the song.
Oh, isn't it? What is it?
Let's get...
Logical?
No. Don't say it. Physical.
Oh,
Physical.
Right.
Anyway, so this week has been really tough for us to find the motivation to record, if we're honest.
Energy.
It's been really
Far
tough
out.
to do this. And it's probably the first week in a long time I've been like, I don't want to do an episode.
Yeah, and it's not because of this episode
Not
at
at all.
We've just had that week of viruses and busyness, and we're just
We're
tired,
in a slump.
man. We are
Yeah.
so tired.
And it's the latest we've recorded in the week because it comes out tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So this is low energy, but I was thinking when this kind of vibe happens for me, sometimes I'm like, what is it about what we're going to talk about that's so important that's making me not want to do it?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think this is an important episode because if you're anything like me, it's so easy to be like, yes, that sounds so good. I want to implement that. Or hear someone talking about these things that sound positive and you're like, yeah, I'd love for my relationship to look like that. But actually making change is where that really sticky point comes in. And we have said on this podcast a number of times, we do not want to just be noise. There's so much noise out there. We don't want to just be noise adding to that noise. We don't want to be just another voice that plays in your ears during the week and then doesn't have any impact. That's not why we're doing this. That's not why we put the effort and the energy into making these episodes. The reason we do that is because we want actual change in relationships. And we believe that that can happen. We know that can happen. And so today we're going to talk about some of the ways that you can actually implement these things. If you're one of those people that's been like, I don't know how to make it happen. I don't know how to change those things. So even though it's been tough to get ourselves here, we are here. And I'm excited because I think it's an important conversation and we're going to push through that energy slump to get into it. So just to recap last week we spoke about how to really like your partner again. We basically, the end point of all of that was that curiosity is one of the best ways to start exploring your partner and bring your relationship back to life in that way and start to change your culture within your relationship. And we gave you a lot of practical tips on how to bring that curiosity in. So if you haven't heard that episode, make sure you check it out because there's some really practical ways to implement that there too. But at the very end of the episode, we spoke about reasons why people might not feel like they're enjoying their relationship anymore. And one of the things that we highlighted as a issue for some people is saying, we've tried to change, we've tried to do these things and nothing has changed. And we do address that in that episode, address the truths that might sit behind that. But we wanted to dive into it even further today to be like, if you've been trying things and nothing has changed, maybe you're not trying it the right way. So we're going to look at how are other ways you can try these things, you can implement these things into your relationship to shift things up, to go a different method and to see what might be stopping you from getting to the place you want to get to in your relationship. So we're going to break down what it is that's stopping us from making the changes in our relationship. And we're going to look at what actually works instead. So why do big goals fail in life? There's a lot of reasons, and we learn a lot about this in coaching. What is the reason that people struggle to implement big goals in their lives? Some of them are, one, your brain is actually wired to protect you. So when change comes in, it's wired to protect your current patterns. And if something is feeling threatening, even though it could be the best positive thing, it feels threatening to your current patterns, it can trigger your fight, flight, or freeze. which makes your brain think that you're in danger. Something's different to the norm, something feels uncomfortable, that can trigger your fight, flight, or freeze and can make you go into survival mode a little bit. That shuts down your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that thinks. It's like big picture, creative, problem-solving brain, the brain that thinks when you have clarity and you've got space to think properly. And it shuts that down. So it makes it really hard to be curious, really hard for patience, really hard for problem solving. And that would be why, relationships that are in some of the toxic rhythms that we've talked about over the podcast, including the 4 horsemen, you might find it hard to be curious and gentle and react in a way that's you're choosing to intentionally react in, partially because your brain is in that survival mode. Your prefrontal cortex is shut down. So it's hard to implement things because you're in fight, flight, or freeze if your body is reacting that way. That might be one reason why you're struggling to actually implement these things or actually apply them to your life.
And the big thing too is it's like it's okay to be in that. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're just in survival mode and you're in that space. So what's good about this process is you identify it and then you can actually do something about it. If you're just going to sit in being naive or trying to avoid the situation, that's where it can really come into some troubles as well.
Yeah. And it's letting you know what your body does. Like that's why we learn about these things, to try and help us understand ourselves better so then we can put in place the things that we need to put in place to support the changes that we need. We've spoken about this week with our kids. There's a few things that they as individuals struggle with. They just don't seem to get it. Like one of our kids just never puts their stuff in the right place. So then when we're looking for their school shoes or whatever, it's never in the right place. The other ones don't do that so much. And so we've talked about how we really want to become a family that helps when we recognize a pattern that's just not working properly or a weak spot. It's not that we're like, oh, you never do this. And it just a frustration. It's not something we just let be. We don't just say, oh, they never get that right, so we just don't even try. We don't let it be something where we're constantly arguing because that's not healthy either. Instead, we want to be a family that recognizes, okay, you struggle with this rhythm or pattern or behavior. So we're going to figure out together what a system is that will support you extra in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's the same thing here. Like, it's okay that your body reacts this way. It's not to say that anyone who finds themselves in fight, flight, or freeze is bad. We all do. But what, like you've said, if we just float through life and we don't own that process, then we will always be a victim to it. And we will always be stuck, and there will always be kind of an excuse for not doing things.
Yeah. And what I want to do as well is sort of remove shame behind those things too, right? So you might be struggling with something and it's not great, okay? But if you bring shame into that, if you allow yourself to feel shame and to be weighed down with shame, that's when you get stuck. But when you can be like, all right, that's what I'm struggling with. Now I'm going to do something about it. You own it, you apologize for it, whatever it might be. And then you can take those steps going forward to address those situations. But if you let shame consume you, when Amy reads through these things, if you've identified something there and your response is shame, speak against that. Like, speak it out, write it down. Like, no, I'm choosing not to take that right now. I'm choosing not to let that consume me. I'm choosing to recognize and then address it.
Yeah. Shame is not the right voice to be listening to in that at all. So that's one reason that you might be finding it hard to implement actual change. The second is that your goal is too big to maintain long-term. And this is a really interesting coaching tool. It's so funny that we're doing this episode this week, because when I was getting it ready, I was like, I'm talking to myself. And I was actually thinking when I was getting it ready, it'll be good to actually do the full episode, because maybe I'll coach myself in the process.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things. So the goal might be too big to maintain long-term. And it's really easy in whatever area that you're trying to do this in, but let's just keep it to relationships for now, to be like, that's it. We've been in a stale place. So instead, we're going to do date nights every week. We're going to not be on our phones from 8 p.m. We're going to always do a walk in the morning before the kids are ready for school or whatever, like these huge, big things. And be like, we're going to change everything and try and implement everything. And it feels great. And often you kind of ride a wave of motivation for that. And you can kind of be a bit motivated for a little while. But those are those New Year's resolutions that you talked about earlier that crumble because they're not maintainable. And the biggest change you ever see in anything is small steps that step you towards your goal, not big, huge leaps. Like that almost never stays around.
Yeah. I've been listening to this fitness podcast. I'm not a fitness person, but I'm an aspiring fitness person.
I'm an inspiring person.
But it's talking about how, like, so it's a really well-known podcast. It's called Mind Pump. You know, I find it a bit of a cheesy name, but anyway, it's...
So, honey, we need to chat.
Exactly. But one of the episodes that stood out to me the most, right, was about, they call it the lazy man's exercise, and it's just clickbait. But they had some really good points to that in that episode about how, you know, you want to go to the gym. It's like all these things that we want to do, you know, go to the gym 3 to 5 days a week or whatever else. And I have to eat only whole foods and only meat and veg, and I'm going to walk 10 to 12,000 steps a day. And their big thing is like, okay, you don't even need to do that to be considered a healthy person. That's if you want to be an athlete. That's not just to maintain health. That's not just to build health. And so what they were actually doing is breaking it right down. Like, all right, if you just do this, and there's a bunch of different things, but one of them was like strength exercises once a week was their thing. It's like, that's actually healthy. You know, that's at a healthy stage. One thing that they ask their new clients that are coming to the gym, they're like, all right, well, what do you want to do? And they might say, 3 to 5 days a week at the gym. And then they ask back, these coaches ask back, they say, well, what can you see yourself doing for the rest of your life? And that hit me quite a lot because
same.
if I look at going to the gym for 5 days a week for the rest of my life, I'm like, I'm already out. I'm already unmotivated. But what I can see myself doing for the rest of my life is a short walk around the block. And I'm starting there. I'm going to start on that point. It's something small. It's not long. It's like 10 minutes of a walk, and that's it. But that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to build that habit. Since I've been doing that, I've been noticing change within myself, health-wise, like energy and mood and all that. And now I'm like, I actually want to do more. And it motivates me to do more.
Yeah, exactly that. I love that coaching question. I actually started to implement that in my actual coaching after we listened to that episode, because it's so true that yes, if someone asks you, what do you want to do when you're sitting on a chair doing a consult with them? Of course you want to be at the gym 5 days a week. Of course you want to be eating only whole foods or doing whatever. But the reality is that so many factors come into play, and that is not your rhythm yet. That's not even remotely close to your rhythm, your current rhythm. So in order to actually get to the point that you want to get to, and that's great if you can get there, you need to break that down. And so that's one of the main reasons people can't implement these goals, is their goals are too big to maintain long term. And then you end up overwhelmed, you burn out, you avoid all of these things. And my example was a 6-day-a-week gym plan when you haven't worked out for years. So you got there exactly. So the next reason, and we're going to dive into some practical ways to tackle these things later, but the next reason someone might struggle to implement long-term change is you're choosing the wrong time to implement. And this is really specific to relationships. It's specific to everything, but in this circumstance, we've talked about this as well. You have to find the right time to do these things. So if you're like, we really need to there's this big conversation I need to have with my partner, and I've been thinking about it for ages, and I've just been encouraged listening to this podcast, I need to say what I need to say. And then it's 10 minutes before bed and you're like, blah, 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 blah. That is, it's the wrong time. It's the wrong time to do that, because you're setting yourself and your partner up for failure. You're setting that conversation up for failure. And when you're navigating change, it needs to take into consideration your context. The motivations are right. Your context is wrong. So don't change all these things. Don't try and workshop everything when you're tired or right after a stressful day of work or in the middle of an argument. A lot of the time you can implement change there, but you're not going to have a calm conversation in the middle of a heated argument, or when you're tired and hungry, or there's kids screaming around you, or you're in the middle of a really intense time. We talked about this when we moved house. Like, we had some moments during the months when we were moving house, but it also wasn't the time to try and really implement anything big. We were just, again, that survival mode. And it's okay to recognize this is where we're at right now, but doesn't mean that that's when you try to bring these things in.
And recognizing when something's just a season, but when something is also a habit. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And that's what we find with little kids. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we've talked about in our relationship and have had to be creative with how to approach it, but also recognize it's not going to be able to be approached the way we probably would love it to be in this season of sleeplessness, or like less flexibility, and those sorts of things. And then another reason, and like I said, this is just a handful of reasons. There's so many reasons that people might struggle to implement big change. But another one I've got down here is you're not noticing and celebrating your wins. And this is not something that people think about very much. It's something I've learned through coaching. You don't fix something in a single conversation. So in a relationship example, you do not fix your whole relationship in one conversation. One conversation can change the tone, and it can be huge and impactful, but you're not going to fix everything in that conversation. That conversation, it needs to be broken down, like we said, with the big goals into small, manageable steps.
Yeah, like I've heard some conversations like, I spoke to them about this and they're still doing it. Yeah, like just because you spoke about it doesn't mean it's changed, because now it's like the speaking about it, it might be just bringing something to light, right? It might just be bringing it to the other person's attention.
Which is a really important step.
It's so important to do that, but then you've also got to commit to the journey of that change, because to break a habit, to change a habit is extremely hard to do. And what does it the best is repetition. And so just committing to that journey is really important as well.
Yeah. So fixing actually comes down to those hundreds and thousands of little mini moments that build the big picture. That's like that big goal, small goal thing again. So you don't fix a relationship in one conversation. It's built through hundreds of small, doable moments, interactions, and that sort of thing. And I tried to think of an analogy for this, and Blair's going to love it.
Oh, no.
Because it's about bricks. And he's a bricklayer by trade.
Bricks.
So when people are building a brick wall, there's a reason they build them with little bricks. I had to look this up. Instead of big slabs. So big slabs of like cement or whatever, or brick, if you want to call it that, is actually weaker because it's more compromisable if there's a crack or whatever, the whole thing. So they've built with bricks in small little sections to make it stronger because it kind of reinforces the whole. So there's that. We do things, we don't do one big, huge goal with one big slab. We build little bricks at a time. But there's also an important part of this where if you were to look at the wall you're trying to build and look at each tiny little brick, you're going to feel like, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I want to be at this finished big wall and I'm just going one brick at a time. And that's an overwhelming thought. And it doesn't feel exciting and flashy and hypey to be doing that. Really, you just want the end result. But you don't get that end result until you've started to build one brick at a time. And so instead of looking constantly at this huge space that has not yet been filled, if you instead focus on each little brick that you're laying at a time, eventually you're going to realize and look back and be like, oh, wow, look how much I've laid. And if you just keep going with that, it will build a wall. Like that's what happens is a wall ends up, as long as you're putting it in the right way.
Exactly.
Which I've got no idea about.
You can't put it at lefty loopy.
Don't do that.
It's not a thing.
Okay, I was going to say, is that a brick? Is that a bricky thing? Anyway, so there's a reason why they're built bit by bit. And there's an important distinction between looking at what you're trying to build, which is an important part. You need to have a plan, right? We've spoken about that too. You need to have a direction. But if you keep looking at that end result and where you're at and thinking, well, look how far away I am, instead of recognizing and celebrating those bricks one by one that you're laying, you're going to be really disheartened. And that's a really important part of change is we don't tend to celebrate every little moment that we have a little win until it's the end result. And so if you want to go back to the gym analogy, like there's a lot of mental health that goes around people's health journeys. And you can look at it and be like, I said I was going to go 5 days a week and I only went 4 days this week and I'm feeling really down on myself and blah, blah, blah. Instead of celebrating, look at the times I did go or look at the walk I did take. There's a beauty in actually implementing that celebration in those moments that's really important. And that can be one of the reasons why you don't see big change is because by the time you don't even get to the big change because you're so focused on the big picture and not celebrating the little moments that have built it.
Yeah. And a big thing for me has been like just with the health journey, which I've got a long way to go, but it's like, oh man, I've only, I can't be bothered going for my 10-minute walk. I'm literally just going to go up the street and back. And then I get low. I'm like, oh, I didn't even go that far. Yeah. And like, actually, but I went.
Exactly.
And I still got more steps in than I would have if I didn't go.
Exactly.
That's the energy that I had for today. And it just really shifts, your perspective. And it's like, well, I'm still doing something. And that means I'm still improving in some way. It doesn't matter if it's big or small. It's all part of that big picture.
Yeah. And we'll talk more later in the episode about exactly why it's important to focus on those little wins, what it does for you. But yeah, without it can be one of the reasons why you're not seeing that long-term change. So we're going to get practical and real about this, about how we can implement change. But before we do that,
Yeah, before we get too practical
and too real,
I just want to take a quick moment for those on YouTube, on the tube, check out my hoodie. Hold on, I'm going to move my mic so you can see my hoodie. You still can't see it fully, but that's all right. Man with a Pram.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bub. Man with a Pram is a fundraiser and awareness campaign that Amy and I are partnering with to go on a family walk on Father's Day weekend to raise funds and awareness for perinatal period mental health support for dads. As dads know, as parents parents know, kids change everything. Becoming a parent changes everything. And very little support is out there actually for dads. So 96% of mums' first contact for help and support is the dad, but there's no help and support there for dads. So dads want to show up. They want to be the best dad that they can be. They want to be the best support they can be, but they have no support around them. So that's where Dad's Group comes in. The Man with the Pram is to support dads through that perinatal period. If dads are better supported, then when baby's born, then the whole family is better supported. So we're going to be walking on Father's Day weekend. We're going to link a bio to our page, our fundraising page in the bio.
We will link it in.
We'll link it. We'll do a link in the link. You guys can donate there or just join us on that walk. But that's going to be just such a great fun time. There's walks all around Australia. So if you're not even near us, go to manwithapram.com and see what walk you can join or donate to your local walk.
Or make your own walk.
Or make your own
walk. You don't
walk.
have to join one that's already existing. You can just sign up your own family or your own self and walk on your own on that weekend. Great. So that's Man with a Pram. Join us there. Let's get practical and real about how we can implement this change.
Let's get practical. Practical.
It's just not. So we spoke about the reasons why people might not see lasting change in what they're trying to implement in their relationship. And one of them was that the goal is too big to maintain long term. So here's a really practical way to tackle something that you're trying to implement into your relationship and into anything that will help with that issue. And it's called the half size it rule. We're going to take that goal. If it's feeling too big, if you're not seeing, you've tried it before and nothing's changed, you're not seeing change in this space, take that goal that you're wanting to work towards and cut it in half. And then if that still feels too big, cut that in half and keep going until you've broken it down into a maintainable, manageable, small step that you can do. And in fact, I would probably suggest just break it down to the lowest tiny step that makes up that goal as your first exercise in this space, and just do that one step. And when I was writing this episode, I was writing this and then I was like, you know what? Good point, Amy. So I hopped on the exercise bike.
Good job.
For like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you were talking about before. Yeah. Break it down. When I was doing some coaching stuff a few years ago.
Gym coaching.
Gym coaching. Sorry. Yeah. Not life coaching. Gym coaching, there was something that I saw or heard that was really helpful. And it was instead of being like, I'm going to be at the gym 3 days a week, I'd never been in that rhythm before. So that was so foreign to me. Instead of jumping to that and expecting that from myself, just get into my active gear. And then if that's easy enough, just get into my active gear and then get in the car. And then you can add the next step, drive to the gym and then come home if that's all you want to do, or drive to the gym and walk in. And I did do this a few times, especially when I'd have times where we hadn't been going regularly for a little while and I had to get back into it. I would go and just say to myself, I'm just going to go on the treadmill for 5 minutes and listen to my podcast or watch something. And that's all I have to do. And it was so freeing. Once I had that thought in my head and I achieved those things, which were so easy, I actually felt like I had achieved. And it's kind of a mix of that and the celebration thing. But I set a goal for myself that wasn't huge. It wasn't go and do your 30-minute workout and get everything in. It was literally just get in your activewear and go walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes at the gym. And walking out of there after 5 minutes, a lot of the time I ended up doing more because I actually just was like, no, this is good. I'm already in it. That's great. But walking out, I never felt guilty because I was like, that's the goal I put in place and I've achieved it. And that's really helpful. So breaking it down to the smallest step that you can do. And even if that's just get your active wear on at home, or let's apply this to relationships because that's what we do. Breaking that down to the smallest step. It's not a date night every single week. You might not be able to just jump into one date night every single week. So instead, is it a coffee in the morning before the kids get ready? Or if that's too big, is it just holding hands for 30 seconds before you go to sleep or something like that?
No, so important. So it's also about how we set up for success as well, right? So you mentioned about getting active wear on. Because I work from home. If I don't get dressed like I'm going to an actual office for the day, I am a sloth.
Same.
But if I put my shoes on, I'm pumped. Like I actually have so much more energy and I'll go for a walk that day because I have my walking shoes on.
Shoes on is huge.
It's huge. So it's about our posture to stuff, right? So for example, I might identify something in our relationship, and this was it the other week. We haven't had a date for a long time. Like, I've got to think about when we can do it, how we can do it. And I'm like, oh, look, I think I'm overcomplicating it. I'm just going to start with step 1. Mum, can you babysit? You know what I mean? And then she's like, I looked at the dates. I'm like, all right, cool. We're free then. I don't even know if you're free and I can check that later because I wanted to surprise you. But first step, is mum free.
Is there, if there's a babysitter?
If there's a babysitter, we're a lot more freer. That was the first step. She's free. I'm like, sweet. Ames, you want to go on a date? I've got a babysitter. Yes, sweet.
That was the easiest date night we've ever
Yeah, and
had.
it was just like, at first, I'm like, it's too much. Like, I was tired. It's on our vlog, actually. I was on the, we vlogged this. So if you go onto our YouTube, you'll be able to see some of our vlogs there. It was on one of those nights and I was exhausted from my day. And I'm like, but we need it. Like, we do need it. We haven't had that time. And I'm like, where do I start?
Yeah.
One text message.
Yeah.
And you do one text message, sweet. Then the next step. Not like this whole plan of this huge elaborate thing. Other times we've been like, we need a date night. We have zero energy to go out. So what's the bare minimum we can do? Let's have a tea time. It's also on our vlog. We have tea time, or we have like just a tea together and don't have to even talk much.
Yeah.
We're just there. It's intentional.
Yeah. And we've spoken about that at home date night many times as well. Like, same thing. Don't have a babysitter, don't have energy, don't have the finances, figure out a way to do something special.
Yeah.
But even if that feels too big, like, cause that's practically speaking, right? Practically speaking, those steps can feel big. But then you've also got the layer when it comes to relationships of awkwardness, or like it's not part of our relationship culture. We don't spend one-on-one time together in that way. And it's a big step to put in place for the comfort level of where you're at. So if that's the case, and having dinner together after the kids are in bed, on your bed watching a movie or something like that is not a comfortable thing for you guys, or even asking your partner to have a date night, same thing. Break it down to what is the smallest manageable thing. Not everything's comfortable. We're not chasing make it so comfortable. We're chasing make it manageable. So find the smallest step that it might be a little uncomfortable. It might be a bit out of the ordinary, but put it in place. And we spoke last week, I think, about how I just sat on your lap when we were talking. To some people that don't have an affectionate relationship right now, that might sound like I'm speaking a different language. Like, no way would I just sit on my partner's lap. To me, that's not a huge deal. But for some people, when you get into these rhythms that aren't serving you, you can find things like that uncomfortable. So don't do something like that. Instead,
your first step could literally be touching the other person on the arm.
Yeah, or just smiling, like just a nice, pleasant smile with nothing else. That is, you don't have to have it look anyway. There's not any way it has to look except for
what you can do
that moves you one step forward. So whatever that is, take your goal, cut it in half, and celebrate that. So this is tying into that celebration thing, because every small win you have actually releases dopamine in your brain. And dopamine is a reward hormone. It helps you be like, oh, I like whatever I've just done. I like that feeling, so I'm going to try and do it again. And that's why celebrating is important, and that's why breaking it down is important, and achieving is important. Because if you're waiting for that big end goal to be releasing that dopamine of, I've achieved my goal, you're not going to get there, and you're not going to have anything pushing you forward. So if you've got these little tiny steps you've done, every little step, you're like, oh, I smiled at my husband. I did not have some kind of sarcastic face or anything like that. Or I just listened to what he said and I didn't have some kind of sarcastic comment or eye roll or anything like that. And that helps move you to the next thing. So small wins equals dopamine, and dopamine reinforces, and your brain starts to crave repeating that. It's also low failure risk, which keeps your nervous system calm, like we spoke about with the fight or flight. So it's a low risk thing. It's not, I have to really put myself out there and sing a song to my husband to show him I love him, or something that's so foreign to you right now. It's low risk, so it keeps your nervous system way calmer, and you're more likely to try it again. So that is why the half size it rule is really helpful. We've got some examples here. Is instead of a deep talk every single night, because if that's not workable for you time-wise or comfort-wise, then just think of one fun random question to ask your partner, or one curious question to ask your partner. We've got so many of those listed on the free resources. Instead of a weekly date night, if you can't implement that for whatever reason, do a would you rather chat back and forth. If that's not good enough, if that's too uncomfortable, then do a 5-minute quick, what was your best thing, worst thing today? If that's too hard, break that down again and just hold hands for 30 seconds while your household is in chaos around you or something. Another part of this is where we've kind of only spoken about examples that you let your partner in on. But if you're in a really, really rough place and you're finding your reactions are not constructive to your partner, the little steps you're breaking it down to do not always have to be obvious to your partner. You can break it down to just my one tiny step is that instead of being sarcastic back, or instead of an unkind thought or a like complainy thought or something, instead of having that go through my brain, I'm going to catch that and decide not to do that in that moment. And that's as small as it has to be. It doesn't have to be, if this is where you're at, doesn't have to be bringing your partner in on that yet. Start wherever is maintainable for you. Then we've got some relationship reset hacks, practical relationship reset hacks that hopefully work even in messy, chaotic moments, which is what most people are experiencing in everyday life. So stacking habits is a really helpful thing in life to implement new things. So that's when you're finding it hard to implement a new habit, goal, whatever you're trying to implement, putting it on top of or at the same time of another thing that you do every single day. So an example I've got here is hug for 5 seconds after brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth every single day. Just try to tie those two things in. Like, we haven't felt connected, so I'm going to hug my partner for 5 seconds after we brush our teeth. Or even I'm just going to hold their hand while I brush my teeth, which might be uncomfortable for some people. But find something you do every day. We have a coffee every single morning. Only one?
Before the other ones.
Every single morning. We don't have any problem making sure we get that coffee. There's no issue.
It's the first thing we do.
It's the first thing we do.
Up, we might go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then, actually, no, I'll get up, turn on the coffee machine, then go to the bathroom while I was warming up, and then I'll come back. It is
well and truly factored into our daily routine. And so if we were struggling to connect or we wanted to implement some new change in our relationship, we could habit stack that and say, while we're making coffees, we'll stand next to each other and ask each other about our sleep or ask each other about our plans for the day or whatever it is. Habit stack something that you've got no issue doing because it's already set up and it's rewarding you as it is, and just piggyback that with whatever you're trying to implement. Another thing which we sort of alluded to earlier is using micro moments. Like we said, we're not making a brick wall with one big slab. We're not just magically making all the bricks in one place. We're making that brick wall with one brick at a time. And so that's the same with relationships. Change is not like I said, it's not that one big conversation that's going to change everything. It's actually these micro habits that will change things. So if you are struggling to implement a change in your relationship culture, start by just touching your partner's shoulder when you walk past, kind of like you suggested earlier. Eye contact and smiling when they walk in. A short, encouraging text during the day when you think of them. A compliment not about their looks. Just be like, oh, you did really well with that. Or I share an appreciation reflection about something you appreciate with them, if that's something comfortable for you. Suggesting 5 minutes of sitting and chatting without your phones. Like the smallest little micro habits that you can implement into your relationship to just show appreciation. And that kind of thing doesn't feel huge. Smiling at your partner, this one stands out to me a lot because smiling at your partner doesn't seem like a groundbreaking thing. But the softness that comes from that alone, especially in a relationship that's been struggling, like one that has not felt safe and soft and comfortable, a gentle smile with no kind of, context to it, no kind of background messaging, can be really helpful to soften. And once you've softened, it's so much easier to tackle some of the other things going on.
Yeah, I think it's very situational as well. So pick your moments when you smile too, because if they're in the bathroom, like it's not the time to
just
do
come in
it,
and
man.
smile at them pleasantly, like.
But in these micro moments, like I mentioned, we've spoken about when you sat on my lap the other day, and then just like it was something so small, it was like for a couple of seconds, but I remembered it. And even this morning, you just walked up and gave me a hug. Like it was just a cuddle. Like, and it was, again, like they're so small and we're not in a rough place or anything, but I still notice it. It's like, it's not annoying because the thing that we do for each other, the habit that we keep falling into is we get very playful and annoy each other on purpose, right? And so it's
like irritating
playful. And so at first when you hugged me, I'm like, oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? But then you didn't. I'm like, this is nice. And I just hugged you back. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Wasn't for long. I mean, I think when our toddler was running between our legs at the time as well. But it wasn't for very long, but it's just those little moments that are just special. And it's so easy and so small, but they do have an impact.
Someone that I follow on Instagram who has recently been doing a bit of a series of reels where she'll replay the same scenario. Basically, it's 2 different scenarios playing out with the same circumstances. So it'll be her sitting on the couch and her husband walks in. And on the top one, it'll be she's on her phone and she doesn't really look up, or she kind of says hi, but she doesn't really look up. And then the bottom one is she puts her phone down and then she talks to him. And she kind of just compares these basically what we've just talked about here, these micro moments of change, but also when you see it from an external perspective, you can see how different it is.
Yeah.
And we're, like you said, we're not in a rough place, but we can still so easily, and we have all the time, find ourselves in just existing together and not having those moments of connection. And the fact that sometimes when we have a cuddle it feels special is telling enough. Like that, that's like, oh.
Yeah.
And so that these things can build a relationship, culture, change, regardless of if you're in a really bad place, a really tough place, or you're in a fairly fine place. It can still help to strengthen and change the culture going on inside. So some other hacks as well to help with this is reduce decision fatigue. So if you're finding it hard to implement change, it might be because you're exhausted, and we get this all the time. We're exhausted. We think about stuff all the time for work. We're balancing all of those things, including 4 kids and school and routines and a dog and trying to figure out the podcast and social media, and like all these things just go round and round and round our heads. So I find decision fatigue is a huge thing for me. And I'll find this mostly when I'm like at the grocery store by myself suddenly, because I'll go. And then I have to decide what to buy. And I seriously walk around like a zombie. Like I know I look like I'm off in La La Land, and I will struggle to see the thing I'm looking for. I'll just go round and round in aisles being like, where is the sugar? Because I get so fatigued that my brain kind of checks out when I'm finally still and making a choice about something. So that's why there's always that joke of like, what do you want for dinner? Like, I don't know. It's like the Notebook scene. What do you want? I don't know. Decision fatigue is real. And if you're finding it's not so much about implementing these things, it's more that you just can't even figure out how to wrap your head around something else, reduce that for yourself. Do a habit stack thing, or find a time where you don't have to decide what to do. You just have set aside this time, and you will open your phone and say, would you rather questions, or get ChatGPT up and be like, give me 5 would you rather questions. And you just ask those. Whatever it is, you're finding the path of least resistance for you. And if part of that is decision fatigue, set aside a time so you don't have to be like, oh, when can I make it work? When can I get a babysitter? When can I blah, blah, blah? When can I blah, blah, blah? You have this time set aside so you don't have to worry about that on the weekly. The other thing is change entry points. If you're finding it hard, you're in this routine where you're not seeing a change in these conversations, you might be like, I understand we need to talk about these things, but every time we do, it just flares up and it's never helpful. Change your entry point. Maybe just for a couple conversations, like literally experiment with different entry point sentences. Instead of being like, we need to talk, or I find it really hard when you do this, just shift your tone. Find an intentional phrase you're going to shift it to something like, I'm curious about this, or how do you feel when this? And see if changing your entry point into these moments of contact or moments of relationship interactions can shift how it goes. Because that might be, if you're finding a pattern and it's not changing, it might be that you're not trying a different way of entry point or entering into that conversation. And the last quick hack that I have here is a 2-minute rule. So if it's under 2 minutes, do it now. If it's going to take you under 2 minutes, do it now. And there's so many things in my life I could apply this to right now, like the dishes and putting away the laundry. But same with your relationship. If you're like, I don't know, I thought of my husband, but whatever, I don't know. If it's going to take less than 2 minutes to text him and say, hey, I love you. Or if it's going to take less than 2 minutes to give him a 5-second hug when you see him in the morning, or to ask him about his day when you see him after work or something like that. If it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it right now, because most everybody has 2 minutes to spare. Maybe not in this very instance when you're listening to this podcast, but once that is done, you've got 2 minutes to spare somewhere along the way. So those are some of the relationship reset hacks that you can try. And I will list these all. I'll put them in a document again and put them on our website for you guys to access and look back at later if you want some help and you want to see it written down, because I find that's helpful for me. But this is the progress formula. So when we're trying to implement change, a lot of the time we don't see the change really implement. This is what has to happen in order for change to really happen. You need to choose, do, notice, celebrate, and repeat. So choose one tiny behavior, figure out what's maintainable for you, figure out what's the path of least resistance for you, choose one thing you're going to implement. Then you need to do it, which sounds really simple, but you need to action it once. Just do it one time. Catch yourself in that moment and say, I just did that thing. Notice that thing is done. Celebrate it. That's a really important step. Do a power yes fist pump thing. I was like, what is it called? A yes fist pump. Woo! Whatever that is called. A power stance, a clap, a smile. Just say, nailed it. Like find something for yourself that physically or verbally marks, as small as it can be, that you've done that thing.
Sometimes for us, it's like, we're going to get sushi. Like, so tied to something we really like as well. Like, just actually celebrate it.
Yeah. Go get sushi, which is really helpful in your health journey.
Yeah.
Sushi's not too bad. But yeah, I actually really love the nailed it one. I kind of feel like I want to start implementing that under my breath, just being like, nailed it.
Well, we've started doing that. Do it, lady.
Do it, lady. That's a good, that's a really good one. Do it, lady. Find something to celebrate it for yourself. It doesn't have to be a big thing. And then repetition. Repetition is habit. So you've gone through this process of choosing something to do, doing it once, catch it, notice it, recognize it, celebrate it, and then repeat it. And that is the progress formula. The issue is that when you're choosing what to do, you're choosing something too big. It's not maintainable. You might do it, but you're not going to repeat it down the track. So that's what the formula is breaking in that place. Choosing something and then not doing it. That's my biggest thing is I'll choose something and I just don't do it. So cool. That's probably partially because I've chosen something too big again.
Yeah.
Choosing it, noticing those moments when we achieve, it's just really not built into how we're just raised. I don't think it's something we've been taught well, and I don't know where that comes along, but we don't necessarily notice the small achievements. We notice the big ones. And it's a huge shift when you can start to notice the small achievements. And the same thing goes for celebrating. If you're doing these things, you're choosing something, you're doing it, you're not celebrating, you're not recognizing those wins, you're again probably going to burn out and not keep repeating it. So that's your progress formula. That's what we want to be going. Celebration is so important because dopamine and oxytocin signal, do this again, it feels good.
I was talking to a mate yesterday actually on my walk. So that was something that I'm doing as well. Like I try and tie my walking to something. So either listening to a podcast that I'll only listen to on that walk, or I'll call someone. So it's like, cool. Well, rather than me sit down and have that phone call, I'm going to go for a walk and call them because then it's hitting two birds with one stone.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I called my mate the other day when I was going for a walk, and I hadn't seen him for a little while, and he shared something with me a long time ago about that he was struggling with and he wanted to put into place. It was kind of just like a balance between hobbies and family life and work life and whatever. And I'm like, oh, I just want to check in, mate. Like, how are you going? I haven't seen you for a while. And he's like, yeah, well, it's just a lot on at the moment. So I've just been making sure that I'm focusing on my family life. And he was kind of saying it in a down, like he's kind of down about it because he's like, I haven't been doing all these other things. Hang on a second. Like, this is something to celebrate, dude. You were struggling with that boundary, putting boundaries in place. You told me you were struggling with that balance. But here, it's like, all right, cool. I haven't seen you for a little while, but your family is seeing you way more. And that's the sort of boundaries that he wanted to put in place and he had. So he was guilty about one thing, but actually he's been really working on this stuff that he was working on. So sometimes we can't see it in ourselves. And so we need other people to speak into that. So even if your partner, that your partner is doing something, calling that out in them, celebrating that for them and with them is really important too, because then that encourages them. We struggle to do that for ourselves sometimes. So taking that time to stop and reflect to do that is really important, but doing that for our partners is just as important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no celebration equals no reinforcement of the thing. The brain logs it as neutral and then it's easy to drop. The brain will put that in as neutral, like we've spoken about as well a number of times. The brain looks for evidence of the things that you tell it is important. And you can tell things to your brain that are important that you don't even realize. So it could be things like, I'm really bad at stuff. So if you're not noticing, it will not log it as a win and it won't reinforce that for you. So it's really important to have something in place, and whether that's having someone do that with you, tracking with you to help with that, or putting some kind of system in place that helps you recognize it, that will help move you forward. So here are some real life examples of messy life trying to implement change, micro moments into messy life. Toddlers, kids, crazy chaos after school. Don't try and have a big chat, just high five each other. Easy done.
We've tried to have conversations with kids around. It's like, all right, we'll come back to this.
Yeah,
like
it just escalates. Yeah. Our brains go like, it just is really literally like that. Yeah. If it's mid-argument, pause for 5 minutes and just one curious question. One curious approach to your conversation rather than attacky, like,
We've only got this window to do it.
Yeah, quick.
It's not true. Like, pick your moments.
Exactly. Busy mornings, if you don't have time in the mornings to connect, you can leave a lunchbox or a bench note or a note on your mirror or something just to say something that you're thinking about with a partner. Or it's the end of the day fatigue, just sit together for 2 minutes before you do anything else. Just some examples of real life. You guys could insert here 500 other examples of how this plays out. But the thing is that bringing in these micro habits to improve your relationship is going to ripple affect everything. It impacts your patience with your kids. It impacts your kindness at work, your self-discipline, your health habits. These micro habits improve everything. And when your relationship can be in a healthy place, we've spoken about this too, it is such a foundation for the rest of your life. So it is something to be focusing on and prioritizing. because small wins shift your identity. It changes the way you think of yourself. It changes the way you think of your relationship. So I'm someone who follows through, or we're a couple that can connect even when it's hard. And starting to shift what you believe about yourself or your relationship helps make your bigger goals possible. So then your brain keeps looking for the next win and helps move you forward in this process. So this is how to really change. And I know it's a little bit of a funny one because we've spun it relationship related, but it really is just across the board. These tactics can help you bring in real change. If you're someone who's been sitting there like, I don't know how to do this. I get what you're saying. I don't know how to change it. For me, I always heard people talk about head knowledge and heart knowledge. And maybe it's a Christian thing, I don't know, but like knowing things in your head, but actually knowing it and believing it, feeling it in your heart. And I've never understood the connection. Like I've been like, how do I get it from my head to my heart? I don't know how to do that. And these are the things that help you do that. Actually putting things in place that bridge that gap for people. It's not just something you know would be good for your relationship. It's also something you know and feel is possible and attainable in your relationship.
And if you're in this point as well, like, write in too. If you're needing that person who's like, look, I don't know what to do with this situation, like write in and we'll respond to you on that. If you're on YouTube,
Absolutely.
Write into your comments as well. Like you can put that in there. We interact with that. We check all of those sorts of things and we respond to it all. So chuck it in the comments if you're on YouTube and we'll respond to it as well. But yeah, just again, we want to be more than just noise. We don't want to just be speaking out a bunch of words. We want to be helping and practically helping couples and individuals. Put that in place there as well. What I haven't actually shared, which I was going to share earlier, head on over to YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube as well, guys. There's a lot of content coming out on our YouTube that is YouTube specific because it's visual stuff that we're wanting to do. There's stuff on there now. You'll see our weekly vlogs being put up there, just sort of giving you a bit more behind the scenes, sort of insight to our lives a bit. But we're coming up with a lot more coaching content and just practical content there too. So make sure you head over and subscribe on YouTube because, again, that's where a lot more of our new stuff is going to be coming where we're not going to be going into any other area. The fun thing though, today we actually met someone that was listening onto the radio. And I just keep forgetting to address our radio listeners. Hey guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah.
And also, like, this person knew us.
We already knew her. Maybe we're your friends and you don't even know.
Yeah, exactly. Because that was a situation that we found out today. So head on over to YouTube, guys. There's a lot of stuff happening there.
Yeah. So just a quick challenge to finish out today as well. Pick one habit or one thing you're wanting to shift in your relationship and try this, cut it in half or half size it. And try this half size it exercise. Cut it down till it feels manageable. Try it 1 to 3 times this week and then ask yourself at the end of that, was that easier? Just try it. There's absolutely nothing you can lose from attempting these things. Alrighty. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys. Good chat.